Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be My Hero Academia, You're Next. Number 2 would be Joker, Folie à Deux. Number 3 would be Saturday Night. Number 4 would be Piece by Piece. And number 5 would be Terrifier 3. And oh my god, complete goose egg. Like, I genuinely was not expecting to be, like, completely wrong on this. And the thing about, when you make predictions in general, it's always a gamble, whatever, but especially last weekend, it was like, it could really go either way with anything. I'm not really seeing, like, a clear winner here, maybe this. And I don't even know if this is, like, current knowledge. I was, as far as, like, having the anime pick be number 1, I was referring to something that might have happened in 2019 and maybe never again. My brain's scattershot. I'm not looking back into it, but still, like, that was kind of like my thinking, and everything else, I was like, well, I don't know how many people care about Pharrell. I don't know if, Saturday Night will do great, but I think it'll get some people in, and Terrifier 3 might still be a little too niche, and I fucked up. Some of you got closer, but nobody got their predictions right, except for the person who commented it like 4 hours ago as of recording this. Don't do that, by the way. I've said it many a times before. Do it before Friday when the, estimates start to come in, you know what I mean? And never edit your comments, because I will never know when you have edited them. Just delete the comment if you made a mistake, or leave it. Doesn't matter. Anyways, let's just dive into it. Number 1, this shocked the hell out of me, because I honestly, okay, it's Terrifier 3. I didn't think it had this much I know that in the years it's kind of gotten a good, following in the horror community. I didn't know that it was enough to get it to number 1, but it's not even like, okay, it got number 1, but, the numbers are really low. This is really devastating for the box office. 18 million, way over what the second one did last year, as far as not even just opening weekends, but it's already outgrossed Terrifier 2 domestically by $8 million. And even though this movie doesn't have a worldwide total yet, even when you factor in Terrifier 2's worldwide total, the domestic run for 3 has already outgrossed that by 3 million, so it doesn't fucking matter. That is insane. And Terrifier 1, I think the numbers wouldn't show up on thenumbers.com, so I'm thinking either very limited theater release, so it's somewhere in the thousands as far as, gross, or it's, purely just a, streaming, digital rental kind of thing when it came out. But obviously this one is way more profitable than that one, and also Terrifier 2. That was shocking to me. Honestly, I didn't think it had that much traction. When I made my prediction last weekend, I was being genuine. I didn't know how niche, people wanting to see Terrifier in theaters, how widespread that was. Apparently, the word spread, more so than when Terrifier 2 even came out. There's more hype surrounding this. Honestly, that is amazing. I'm glad. This is an instance where I'm glad to have gotten my predictions completely wrong if this is the outcome, because this is fucking stellar. Whether you like these movies or not, I think there is still something really special as far as, like I said, the first Terrifier, very, 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 limited, very obscure kind of release. They had, I think they even did a GoFundMe kind of thing for Terrifier 2 to just get some more funding in to make a bigger, better movie. But then that one, because of the success of that one in theaters, even though it was on a very small scale, they were enabled to make a movie with a little bit more of a higher budget, not too big, a $2 million production budget is, still very indie. And even the distributors of this film, it's no one major Searchlight or fucking, it's not a streamer who picked it up. It's Bloody Disgusting, it's Cineverse, these distributors no one has ever heard of. So in a sense, they are very, very true to indie form, you know what I mean? And an indie film, how long has it been since a really purely indie film has gotten to number 1 at the box office? This is an instance where it's it doesn't matter that it's a sequel. For me, it's still shocking, because it's not like I said, this movie in its opening weekend has already outgrossed the entire run of Terrifier 2. Terrifier 2 did really great because the production budget was in the $100,000s, and it got a steady word of mouth, so it had a very modest run considering its budget. This is even better, you know what I mean? This is even better for what it had. That's I'm just amazed by that. And I was kind of saying before, whether you like it or hate it, there's something to be admired here as far as an original, very indie-born franchise, getting even bigger as it goes on. It reminds me very much, not that this was totally an indie, it was Lionsgate, but it reminds me of when John Wick came out the first time, and it did okay for its budget, but and it was enough to justify a sequel. They thought they had, a good word of mouth, a good cult following, and they continued with 2, made even more money, 3 made more money, and then 4, same thing. So it reminds me of that, but on a much much more smaller scale and a more horror scale like this, but it's just so uber exciting. You know what I mean? Like it's a box office result that just has me so enthralled, and I'm so happy. And it helps that I've enjoyed the movie too. I've enjoyed all the Terrifier movies, but it helps that this is like a genuinely good movie, at least for me. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Let's move on to number 2, which is The Wild Robot, still holding over well, making 13 million domestically, adding to a domestic total of 83 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at 148 million. So they are about 8 million away from officially doubling that initial production budget of 78 million, thus confirming its success status. Not that that matters though, because we got news a couple days ago that The Wild Robot 2 is in the works. They're already moving forward with another installment, which is pretty good. There is always that chance, obviously, because this is based on a 3-book series, I believe, so there's always the chance to make more. It was just, audience turnout, audience reception, and yeah, people are loving it. The word of mouth really spread, so it had a, decent opening weekend, but it's held over well enough, and they're about to cross over the doubling point. People are still talking about the movie, so yeah, just really great all around. Another box office result that is just very, very exciting and very good. For DreamWorks Animation, it is outgrossed domestically, flushed away by 19 million, the original Spirit Stallion by 10 million, and Captain Underpants, same number, and it's a couple 100,000 over Penguins of Madagascar. It squeaked by. It's sitting behind Ants by 7 million. Worldwide, like I said, 148 million, so it's outgrossed the Spirit Stallion movie, the original, by 42 million, Captain Underpants by 12 million, and Boss Baby 2, Family Business, by 2 million. It's now sitting behind Ants here too, by 4 million. So Ants is the one to beat now, but it's obviously going to. This is just really great. Obviously, man, opening up this video with 2 movies out of the gate doing well and kicking ass, and that's amazing. What else do we got? Number 3 is Joker Folie à Deux. Oh, fuck. Here's something crazy. Because I was saying that, like, I'm pretty sure this is gonna drop off, but I still think there will be some people who want to see it. It's still technically a big movie out there. I was not expecting, this is historic, an 81% drop from last. I was expecting maybe 50, 60, maybe borderline 7. 81% drop off. That's fucking horrendous. That's worse than how much any other, like, superhero movie flopped last year. That's worse than any other drop they've had. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, this has no word of, like, any word of mouth, obviously, is, like, mostly negative. And obviously there are people who have been liking this movie, but that word of mouth from that corner is not strong enough to convince people to give this a shot, see what they think for themselves. People have just been writing this off. It made 7.055 million this weekend. It's neck and neck with another movie, which we'll talk about in a second, that adds to a domestic total of 51 million. So for Todd Phillips, it has outgrossed War Dogs by 8 million. It's now sitting behind Road Trip by 17 million. Who'd have thunk we'd be living in a world where a Joker sequel wouldn't be like a surefire, like, oh, it's gonna breeze through these comedy films that Todd Phillips used to make. Now it's kind of like, I don't know, is it gonna drop off so much it can't outgross fucking Road Trip? Worldwide, it is sitting at 165 million, so 35 million away from their initial production budget of 200 million. I did see something, I think we talked about it also last week. There was a tweet from Discussing Film, and hopefully they cited their sources, saying that they needed 450 million to break even, so they are still a long way from that. And also last weekend I was talking about how it is only like a couple million away from Starsky and Hutch, and, similar to what I just said, I thought for sure it's going to breeze through these because it is still a big movie. It'll probably make more than these movies. It is still behind Starsky and Hutch for Todd Phillips. It needs 5 million until it outgrosses that worldwide total. That's fucking crazy. Who'd have thought that this would be the fucking disaster of the year? And I don't even know if you, like, actually crunch the numbers, if this is the disaster of the year. I think this is definitely the most, like, surprising, most talked about one. Like, Megalopolis a couple weeks ago was kind of like, well, yeah, most people kind of expected this to not do well, and, word of mouth was already kind of mixed from Cannes Film Festival, so, you know what I mean? People had kind of more time before the box office bomb happened, I'm having a hard... Madam Web, I think people expected that too. Joker is the one where people were like, this is the surefire winner, and then as soon as it opened up and people got to see it and people realized what it was doing, what it was also, because they hid the fact that it was a musical so much. Yeah, yeah, man. This is the bomb of the fucking year. That's crazy. But anyways, let's move on from Joker 2. Let's move on to Beetlejuice, which is still doing very well. I think some people even said, because of what I'm about to say, in its 6th week of release, this is the 6th week Beetlejuice 2 has been out. Crazy to think about. The time has flown by that much. But Joker 2 has dipped to kind of this level of income, because Beetlejuice made 7.050 million. So that's only a 0.005 mil difference between Joker 2 this weekend and Beetlejuice this weekend. So Joker 2 dropped off so bad that it's making what Beetlejuice is making now 6 weeks after its release. I mean, we already discussed it, but just to even more so show how bad this is for everyone involved with Joker 2. Anyways, Beetlejuice, it made that money. It made $275 million in its overall domestic run. It is still behind Alice in Wonderland by $59 million. And then worldwide, it is sitting at $420 million worldwide. It has quadrupled its initial production budget of $100 million, and it's at the weed number, hell yeah. And also, for Tim Burton's filmography worldwide, it has outgrossed the original Batman by $9 million. It is now sitting behind the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie by $55 million, but it is officially in the top 3 highest grossing Tim Burton worldwide runs ever, and that's pretty amazing, you know? I really don't have much more to add here other than that's awesome and that's amazing, even though it's slowed down enough where it might not make 5 times the production budget. It's still, what they've achieved here is pretty incredible. I know Michael Keaton recently said he'd do this like once a year if he could. He wants to keep playing Beetlejuice and stuff. And I mean, if Tim Burton is down, you know, if it still has to feel like it's coming from a place of love. I think that's the thing. Like, despite any problems the movie itself may have, which, you know, I certainly didn't think it was like a perfect movie. I enjoyed it. But, you know, it still did feel like it was like a labor of love. You know, Tim Burton really wanted to do this. Michael Keaton really wanted to do this. You know, everyone involved wanted to do this, you know? So if it gets to a point, like if they are going to make more of these, if it gets to a point where it's like, oh, fuck, here we go again, then I feel like at that point you might be, you know, losing the what's attracting people to it in the first place. But if they can keep it fresh, keep people interested, keep themselves interested, then why not? I would also accept that. They certainly have the money backing them at this point. At number 5, we have Piece by Piece, which is the Lego Pharrell biopic movie, which when I made my prediction last week, and I was even like, it'll get in the top 5, but I don't know how much money it's going to make because, quite frankly, I don't know how many people give a fuck about Pharrell, especially in like a Lego movie context, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where, like, you know, when you know, studios announce these musician biopics, it's like, okay, that makes sense. These are people that have, you know, legendary status, you know, they're very, very popular, and they have been for many, many years, you know, like decades, you know? And despite how I may feel about some of them personally, it's like, I never think, why did they make that? I know why they did. This is one where it's like, is Pharrell really, and I know, you know, he's done more than just even the songs that he's done. He's produced some stuff too. You know, he's had a long career in the music industry, but it's also like, do people really give a fuck about Pharrell this much to warrant a movie? And then, you know, it's made with Lego pieces, and the 2 reasons are, 1, because he wants to make a movie his kids can see, and 2, because he grew up playing with Lego, so that's obviously the best way to make a movie, and it's like, maybe that's what threw people off and why not many people really wanted to see it this weekend. I think also the kids angle might have thrown people, because most of the time when you're doing musician biopic stuff, it's like maybe PG-13, mostly R, so they can, you know, dive into the nitty-gritty of it. This is maybe close to life. But if you're doing it like through a kids movie lens, and I know they, from what I understand, I haven't really heard much about the movie critically, or I haven't even seen it, so I don't even know. But from what I understand, they do try to incorporate some serious topics into it, but you do always still have to go through that like kids film, and in this case, Lego kind of buffer. So I don't know how that worked out. I don't really. Like, I've seen some people say, like, oh, it's fun, but I haven't seen, like, this overwhelming, like, oh, you need to go see this. This is amazing. Wow, this is, like, so sensational what they've done. You know what I mean? Like, The Wild Robot is the animated movie getting talked up. Transformers 1 is getting talked up more than this one. Anyways, all that to say, it made $3.8 million this weekend on a budget of $16 million. There's no worldwide total for it yet. Maybe eventually that'll help. But, you know, we'll see. And just to be a little petty, since they made this a Lego movie, I looked at some domestic Lego movie stats. This is the lowest opening weekend for a Lego movie, 17 million below Ninjago, 31 million below Lego Movie 2, the second part, 50 million below the Lego Batman movie, and 66 million below the original Lego film. For its entire domestic run, it needs to outgross Ninjago by 56 million in order to not be the lowest grossing one. No way that's gonna happen. That's funny to me. I don't know. That it's not funny. It's just like, that's interesting. You know what I mean? And in this specific case, I don't think it's a thing of like Lego movies aren't profitable. I think it's literally just everything I just mentioned. Like, do many people even care about Pharrell? Pharrell for me just seems like he's still a little too new to warrant a film. Maybe I'm completely off base on that. I'm not like the biggest at the very least, like, current modern day music guy. You know, all my favorite songs are by singers who are fucking dead. So, like, I don't know, but it's like I remember even when they announced it, I was like, really? I do say this does make me interested to see how the Robbie Williams CGI monkey one will do. I think at least worldwide, that one will probably do better because he is an international superstar, more so than he is recognized here in the States. So it has me wondering, like, they're trying to hook, because clearly I think the Lego angle was like trying to get a clear hook for audiences to come see this, but it didn't really work. Maybe the CGI monkey will do it for Robbie Williams, who fucking knows. It's certainly more interesting than just like, what if Pharrell but Lego and, you know, kid-friendly? Anyways, number 6 is Transformers 1, making $3.6 million, adding to a domestic total of $52 million. It's $75 million away from Bumblebee, so still not really, you know, making much progress there. But worldwide, it did bump up a little bit to $111 million, so it's, you know, $328 million away from Rise of the Beast, still the lowest earning one outside of the original animated film from the 80s, but it is inching closer to getting its doubling point of $150 million. So they just need $39 million more. Combine that with US and international, I think they could squeak by. I don't know if it's enough to warrant more films. Maybe they can start a new Transformers TV show that's based off of this. I don't know if you'll get the same star power. Like, I know the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles got their show, and they have all the same voice actors, including Io Adebari, but Transformers 1, if you make a TV show with Chris Hemsworth, and Keegan-Michael Key might do it, if I'm being honest, actually, but I don't think you get Chris Hemsworth back, or Scarlett Johansson, or Brian Tyree Henry for that matter. So, I don't know. I want to say that getting to a doubling point would, you know, seem really good for the movie. Like, this is great, but, like, the Wild Robot is holding over better than this. You know, it's inching closer to that doubling point, but it's really not catching on like the Wild Robot is, despite what anybody says as far as like, it's a good movie, go check it out, please go check it out instead of Joker 2, just don't waste your money if you're not interested, check out Transformers 1, give that one a shot. Not working. So, I don't know. Like, even if it does get that doubling point, if they do continue it, it could just be like a TV thing. Or they just run the gambit and try and see if, you know, the following from the first movie has grown. I don't know. Well, it's not necessarily, because I think when it started, I was like, if they're lucky, they end in a spot where Into the Spider-Verse was. Where it's like, it had a modest run. Not like the highest grossing thing you've ever seen, but it had a modest run considering the budget. And that allowed them to squeak in a sequel, especially because of word of mouth. Outside of the fact, nominated and won Best Animated Film that year. And then Across the Spider-Verse obviously made a lot more money. It's much more of a bigger film, too. I don't know if Transformers 1 has that energy right now, which sucks, because I did enjoy this one. Number 7 is Saturday Night. I really thought this one was going to do better. You know, maybe just people don't care about Saturday Night Live. Something that made me not interested in this movie just a little bit was how the first trailer, at least, tried to emphasize, like, they want you to fail. They want you to, and trying to, like, really emphasize the, like, importance, the cultural significance of Saturday Night Live. And, you know, it is, you know what I mean? Especially back then when they, you know, got started, and that's, you know, an interesting story. And it is a fun movie. Like, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It is fun. It's a very entertaining, well-made movie. But I think maybe what puts some people off is seeing, like, you know, how many movies are getting the based on a true story treatment these days, what's getting adapted into, you know, entertainment. And, you know, it's not like this movie was, like, marketed, you know, so well where, like, it was everywhere, you know what I mean? It had a limited release last weekend, it's opening in more theaters this weekend. You have some stars out there, you know, doing interviews, they had a premiere and everything. It's just, like, it's not, like, everywhere, you know what I mean? So I think maybe what I just said about, like, the overemphasizing, like, it's very much so, like, you know, a movie like underdog, you know, root for them kind of movie, has those kind of beats that people expect. So maybe people saw through that and they were like, I don't even know if I want to see that. I don't even care about SNL. It's too woke these days, or whatever the fuck. I don't know. It's never been funny. But it made $3.4 million this weekend, which adds to a domestic total of $4.1. This is on a budget of $25 to $30 million, though. I was wondering if they were going to try to, like, do some, like, Oscar campaigning for this, because it certainly seems like a movie they could try. And there's certainly some performances in there where I think, like, you could probably push someone for, like, an Oscar nomination at the very least, maybe the screenplay. I'm wondering if maybe, you know, a low interest in the box office maybe will result in maybe one nomination for the screenplay, like I mentioned. But if that's kind of like if they're lucky, you know, maybe it's just kind of dead in the water already, because it's not like it's catching on with casual audiences, at least right now. We'll see, but it could also just dip out of here completely. For Jason Reitman's filmography, only domestically, it did outgross Men, Women, and Children by $4 million, and The Frontrunner by $3 million, and now needs $5 million until it outgrosses Tully. So I guess it's not too off-brand for how well a Jason Reitman movie does. It's just this one's kind of a more flashier studio movie that has a bit more of like a grab to it than some of these other ones, or at least that's what it seemed like at first. Anyways, number 8 is My Hero Academia, You're Next. I can't believe I predicted this for number 1. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, I know what I was thinking. I'm just embarrassed. It made $3.0 million. I don't know what the budget of this thing is, but worldwide it's saying it's at $19 million right now, so hopefully that's good for them. I have nothing else to add here. Let's move on to number 9, which is The Nightmare Before Christmas re-release, making $2.3 million, adding to a domestic total of $89 million. I was shocked to see that, like, worldwide, it didn't really do that well. You know, it's only bumped up to $90 million compared to the domestic $89 million intake, so not that much of like a difference there. I was kind of surprised to see that, considering how big the movie's kind of gotten since it even came out. But I guess back in the day, at least, or for most of their re-releases, it's really only kind of like an American thing, which is interesting. Unless the numbers.com is lying to me, which I guess is also possible. Anyways, closing out the video, number 10, The Apprentice. Honestly, I didn't expect this movie to get into the top 10 at all, because it seemed like Briarcliff, who, acquired the film after some, legal disputes, whatever, it seemed like maybe they were just kind of like shoving it out there just to say they got it out before the election, before like the voting started, or I guess not before it started because early voting did, but, before like election day. But, it made $1.5 million, which isn't amazing, especially compared to its budget of $16 million. There's no worldwide totals to bump it up, but for some reason this surprised me. I was not really expecting it to get into the top 10 after a bit, but lo and behold, when I saw it, there was like a couple people in there. So maybe it's just like those kind of screenings throughout the country, like what I had. For every showtime, there's like maybe 5 to 10 people in a theater, and maybe that's just it. Maybe that's what's making up the 1.5. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I am going with Smile 2. Considering how well the first Smile did, I think it's pretty easy to predict that this one will do incredibly well. But I think number 2, right behind it, will be Terrifier 2. And I am going to make a little bit of an extra prediction that because of just the word of mouth from the positive, box office news, that some more people will be like, well, I never saw the other ones, and maybe I'll watch them and go see Terrifier 3. I want to be part of this, you know what I mean? So I think number 2 will be Terrifier 3. Number 3, I think, will be The Wild Robot. And then number 4, I think, will be We Live in Time. I think that'll be able to squeak in. I think The Wild Robot is still going to hold over pretty well, but number 4, We Live in Time, I think, can sneak in there just based off of the buzz critically, and then Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh are names that people love, and they maybe want to see this because it's a romance drama. And then number 5, I think, will be Joker Folie à Deux, which might be a little wishful thinking. This might be dipping out completely, but that's my prediction. I think it'll drop enough for We Live in Time to sneak in above it, but not completely. Or maybe it does. What are your predictions for next week's Top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.